Howdy. There is something big going on in Iceland. There has been a 5.0 earthquake at Barbadunga, or however you spell that, 1 kilometer in depth. So it's basically at the surface. And there is some other activity as well. So at least we might need to expect something going on at the Barbadunga volcano, which is still dormant. There has been some flash flooding occurring. I think it was more south. Yeah, these are from yesterday, obviously. But there is also this other very big volcano, Grimsbotn, which is here, I guess. Yes, dormant. And I think it was the one who. Who? Yeah, he. For some flash floods recently. I'm not too sure about that, if it was Grimsbotn or not. But I made several videos about those auroras that occurred before the first eruption started at the southern tip of Iceland, Grindavik. Like there has been this webcam and there has been those auroras, despite not being in any geomagnetic storm or whatsoever. And somehow I just thought back then this might be a sign of something very big coming. And because it could relate, or it could be in a way the same principle as we have the clouds as earthquake precursor phenomena. They can occur on very big scales or on a big area. We have those lenticular clouds on volcanoes. So why shouldn't there be any crack or whatsoever disturbance much more high up in the atmosphere or in the ionosphere, magnetosphere, wherever the wave of the energy will hit the right environment in order to create whatever it creates? Is it then clouds or glowing stuff even higher up? And it's also a fun thing to think about. If you see noctilucent clouds, if you have the chance to observe noctilucent clouds once, I have seen them many times, it's maybe a good thing to be aware that basically these are the highest clouds there are, and above them are the auroras. So there's just a very thin layer, one of those many double layers in the atmosphere, which makes a distinction between the noctilucent clouds and the auroras. So that's an interesting thing. And since there is now this big quake, I wanted to show you something about it's about mountain water. I have made somewhat 365 videos about mountain water. That's the playlist. The gentleness of glaciers. I think I haven't made a mountain water video for a while. Yeah, but for example, this here, Mount St. Helens, Mont Blanc, mountain water. Mount St. Helens is a volcano, okay? And also these kind of patterns or things you can find on Google Earth, that's in a glacier. And it seems to me that there would be very dirty water coming from the ground below the glacier. So in a nutshell, the mountain water theory is basically, in simple terms, that the glaciers are lava streams made of water. In other words, the glacier-carrying mountain is a volcano. It is just erupting with water. And if the environment is suitable, i.e., it's cold and the water freezes over, we get a glacier. Yeah, of course, there's some snow accumulating on top of the glacier, but it's not necessary. There will be a glacier nonetheless. There are glaciers in very dry places. So the water comes from below. And if you think about geothermal activity or geothermal potential, which would probably be the better term for what I try to explain, geothermal potential, I think it has to be seen from 0.1 or 0.1 degrees from the point on where water is liquid. It doesn't need to be warm water in order to understand it as geothermal activity or geothermal potential. If the water is very cold, let's say 1 degree, the geothermal potential is just very low, but it still has geothermal potential. If you would pour water with 1 degree temperature on top of snow, it probably would melt the snow because it is charged, or it is more charged than the snow. It's potential. And just for the science, so to speak, for those who don't know or are not aware, let's just say if you are interested about the mountain water thing, because obviously there are a few hundreds videos, 365 videos. That's quite a bunch. So there you can catch up. But also, it's not just some YouTube videos about the same topic. We are at the NCGT journal, except nothing on authority. An international journal for new concepts in global tectonics. And that's the volume 11, number 1, March 2023. Greetings to Australia, USA, Italy, Japan, Mongolia. Greetings. That's a little bit hard with the phone to make this because it's a little bit difficult to navigate. But here you can scroll down. I will put a link below to that. And here we find mountain water. A new approach to mountain forming, volcanism, glaciers, and the role of water in an electric environment. People settle near water. So, we go to page 100 of the journal, because here we find this picture I once made. Yeah, I have no IT skills or whatsoever, so this is made as sketchy as you can. But anyway, we will take a closer look at this after we read a few lines of the mountain water paper. So now we went from volcanism, geothermal activity, the nature of glaciers, to an illustration about the different layers of Earth. Notice how thin our atmosphere is compared to the other spheres. Now we remember quickly the noctilucent clouds and the auroras, because the auroras aren't too far from you. Maybe 80 kilometers? 100? Maybe just 70 or less in some places. Who knows? I don't know. Anyway, notice how thin our atmosphere is compared to the other spheres, so there is room for other, denser spheres towards the center. Like a plasma ball which get touched by a finger, the core will make the connection to outer layers and vice versa. The poles and their connections to the sun via buckled currents is not part of this picture. Yeah, it would. I have no IT skills so whatsoever. If you could make an animation of this, that would be. I think this would look pretty cool. But anyway, Earth is directly connected to the sun and therefore to the rest of the universe. There are no islands in space. So now let's take a look at the picture because this is the bridge to the next theme I will talk about. So I think I came to the conclusion. That's why I think so. This is maybe something partially came to my mind. Did you ever think about this saying? Something came to my mind? Yeah. You need to have an open mind in order for things to come to your mind. Otherwise, they won't come. Anyway, I came to the conclusion that at the Earth's center, or core, or the core of Earth might be a plasmoid. So it will naturally generate the heat. There will be material precipitate from that. There will be different layers of materials around the plasmoid, quite likely arranged according to the laws of the Maxwell equation. No, it's Markland's convection. We could talk about this also, but we won't, because there's still some other stuff I wanted to show you. So in other words, can we zoom in? Yes, we can. So just for the small, I tried to measure this somehow. Exosphere, 500 kilometers approximately. So and if you think about the auroras, let's draw some auroras. Let's draw some pink auroras here. They are not to scale, but they are vertical towards the center of the Earth because they are aligned with the electric field of Earth. Let's say this would be the surface. Let's try another color. That's the lower side, lower boundary of the auroras, and that's the surface of the Earth. This would be 80. So there's no chance I could draw this here. That's why it's not drawn on this picture. And that's very hard to navigate. Or in other terms, Earth is in a way like a geoid, but it's just alive. And here we see the layering of this geoid as well. And at the center of that geoid, at the moment of creation, there might have been quite much heat. Maybe it's ball lightning petrified, after all. So now it took a while for me to somehow get on with this video, in a way, because that's still the introduction to the next theme we are talking about. It's about torus shapes, about the perpendicularity of the electromagnetic wave, that the magnetic field is always perpendicular to the direction of the current. And we can observe this also on Earth. So I figured to take it as an example of, let's say, the torus, something I found related to volcanic plasma phenomena and stuff like that. So let's just have a quick look and listen at an elderly video from the La Palma eruption and also volcanic plasma phenomena from the Agung volcano in Malaysia. No, I don't know. But anyway, let's just have a quick listen. That's still an introduction to the other theme. Or it's not, it's the same. Let's have a listen or a go. I don't know what's coming.
Howdy. Check this out. That's pinned on the screen. This is Agung. And it's 90 degrees turn. It would be like that. So it's about 90 degrees. Okay. Check this out. And obviously, I forgot to mention, if you haven't noticed, this is La Palma, Vulcano de La Palma Directo. All right, and here we have a dust devil. I would say they look very familiar or similar. They are electric in nature.
So I guess you get the idea of what I'm trying to explain. It's about this feature here. And that's a plasmoid, the one from the Agung volcano. You will find the video on YouTube. Yeah, that's a funny thing to say. You find it on YouTube. I think it's this one. Let's turn the volume down.
Actually,
Let's just have a quick look at this in order for you to understand of what's going on.
many of those other might be plasmoids too. So this one is lighting up too. And here we get already the sphere around the thing. And now it seems that the action has died down a bit.
So we go back in order to see the action. Wherever it is.
So thinking about these, what could they be? What is the mechanics behind that, of them lighting up like this?
That's the thing. We just compared to the La Palma eruption. Okay? So now let's go to a paper Ben Davidson brought to my attention today. Thank you for that. Greetings. Seismic low velocity equatorial torus in the Earth's outer core, evidence from the late coda correlation wave field. I try to speak in simple terms in order for everyone to understand what I try to explain. Because you will probably very soon understand of why. They don't use simple terms. And reading these kind of texts are sometimes small challenges, but let's have a quick listen to that abstract. Thermochemical inhomogeneities in the Earth's outer core that enhance our understanding of the geodynamo had been elusive. Seismic constraints on such inhomogeneities would provide clues on the amount and distribution of light elements in the core apart from iron and nickel. Here we present evidence for a low velocity volume within the outer core via the global correlation wave field. I just want to say this quickly. I'm in a way confused about the inner and the outer core because there is just one core. It's at the center. All others are layers. They are not cores. But that's just what I think. Several key correlogram features with a unique sensitivity to the liquid core show variations with wave paths remarkably slower in the equatorial than polar planes. So they assume that the core is liquid and that there's something going on at the equator. Yeah, there's like many more examples about stuff going on at the equators. Just look at Saturn, for example. And I happened to, I think today or yesterday, watch a video from. It doesn't matter. Anyway, and he showed pictures from the James Webb Space Telescope, and there has been those amazing pictures from many other planets, and you could see the rings. So this shouldn't really come as a surprise to anyone that Earth has some kind of rings too. But obviously they seem to be inside. Maybe, or quite likely, they have been also on the other side as well once. And who knows, maybe they come back. And then you can watch them in the sky. But anyway, we constrain a torus structure at low latitudes with about 2% lower velocity than the surrounding liquid outer core via waveform modeling. We propose a thermochemical origin for such a low velocity torus. All chemical reactions are electromagnetic in nature. Ion exchange, valence. Anyway, providing important constraints on the dynamical processes of the Earth's outer core, which is not a core at all because there's just one core. Anyway, introduction. The generation and maintenance of the Earth's magnetic field are attributed to the vigorous fluid convection in the outer core via the geodynamo mechanism. Such fluid convection can be driven by thermal and compositional buoyancy sources. So, buoyancy sources, like there's like warm stuff, obviously they still think it rises because it's warm. Yeah, basically a simple idea, but I don't think this works in that way. And the geodynamo mechanism, where does the dynamo get the energy? Because if you compare it to the wheel, you have a dynamo. Yeah, it's the one thing that generates the electricity. But it does only do this as long as you pedal. Get it? Otherwise you don't get the electricity. So where is the dynamo powered from? What's the source of the dynamo? They aren't telling you. And I think, or it has to be so, that the Birkeland current, which goes through Earth, keeps the plasmoid alive, generates the heat. It's a spark that keeps Earth alive. Anyway, the Earth's liquid iron alloy outer core was previously considered well mixed and homogeneous due to its vigorous convection. However, it is still debated whether volumetric inhomogeneities could exist. So they don't really know. It is still debated whether volumetric inhomogeneities could exist. I still butchered this word, but anyway. Some studies have proposed and demonstrated several plausible inhomogeneity origins including a tangent cylinder structure, due to an inviscid convective fluid under the Earth's rotation and the presence of a solid inner core. Yeah, they differ quite a lot from me in their thinking and language. Gravitational perturbation induced by the asphericity of the mantle. Yeah, they don't understand gravity. Okay, this should have been. I think I knew that because, otherwise they wouldn't explain these strange things. Heat flux variations through the core mantle boundary, CMB, and localized concentration of light elements released by the inner core. So, if there's a localized concentration of elements, of light elements, there must be a localized concentrations of heavy elements too. And what else could separate the elements according to their atomical weight, or let's say more the charge potential of each element? What else than electromagnetism could do this? So we are back at the plasmoid theory, which is 100% electric in nature. And it would provide the heat and all that things. So now they are telling us that there is a torus within Earth somewhere, which goes sensationally well with the plasma theory. If you just think about the stick man, I thought about searching something about the stick man. Do you know about the stick man? Just now, I will search for you a video about the stick man, because if you don't know about it, you really have to. I am lazy, so I make it like this. Let's watch a few minutes of this in order for you to get a little small grasp of the torus thing.
2016. In the last two episodes, David Talbott, the director of the Thunderbolts project, has outlined the foundations of his working relationship with one of the world's leading plasma physicists, Dr. Anthony Peratt, and the impact that this relationship had on Peratt's life, work, and career. As David described, Peratt's research proves undeniably that high-energy plasma events occurred in the earthly sky within human memory, and were recorded in rock art and cave drawings in various locations, including the American Southwest. In this episode, David explores in greater depth one of the most remarkable rock art motifs, which has an explicit counterpart in laboratory experiments with plasma, and that is the stickman figure, carved on stone around the world.
Evidence gathered from around the world has made abundantly clear that in ancient times, intense electrical activity above observers on Earth was the subject of massive collective endeavors to record the forms on stone. Especially compelling is the rock art theme called the stickman. The illustrations shown here compare a well-documented electric discharge form in the laboratory to the remarkably similar rock art carvings from different parts of the world. These rock art stickmen are taken from Tony Peratt's 2003 paper in Transactions on Plasma Science, published by the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers. Peratt states his conclusion forthrightly: the recurring petroglyph patterns are reproductions of plasma phenomena in space. Of course, the majority of rock art authorities, particularly those with primary interest in Native American sources, argue that only images of the sun, moon, and stars reflect actual celestial phenomena. Apart from such associations, most authorities claim that global patterns do not exist. Rather, they tell us, the ancient artists projected onto stone the subjective content of shamanistic trances. Peratt's investigations say the opposite, that the most fundamental patterns of rock art occur globally. Through massive labors, some apparently taking whole lifetimes, according to Peratt, the artists carved onto stone observed electric discharge phenomena in the heavens.
I will put a link below to that. And basically, I just wanted to, in a way, undermine the theory about Earth's plasma core and relate it to a similar thing they found now in Earth. Seems to go on like this anomaly. We just read a small part of the paper. So, as we are already at the Thunderbolts project, I want to mention that a few weeks ago, Andrew Hall made a new video about pyramids. And there has been some maps shown in that video. They were about ley lines. And I thought that, yeah, that's interesting that somehow now again ley lines pop up, because a while ago I made a little bit of research, not too much about the ley lines, and there has been some other things going on. And he made a video, and there was some talk about the ley lines, about induced currents, about the telluric currents. And I thought, yeah, that's all very fantastic, because if you watch my Finnish copper playlist about induced currents, about my microwave experiments I made, because that's induced currents on the electromagnetic microwave spectrum. It's the same thing, just on a smaller scale. And since I had plasma discharge, I recreated some of the Kalevala, or some of the stories told in the Kalevala about electric discharges and stuff like that. The skirt made of fire, which quite likely is a plasma discharge event witnessed by the people. And it quite likely also might have happened not too far from here, just maybe 20 kilometers or something, maybe more, 40, above a hill, and people have been witnessing. And I made recently a video because I found that Mount Tsuma in Nigeria, and people are still witnessing electromagnetic events, plasma events there. They see the electricity. And the one man describes it as, in a way, as a torus. So there might be many more things going on like this we just cannot see, or nobody figured to watch. Or if, like, maybe we just are not technically equipped for many things to see. And the other thing is also that Earth's electromagnetic environment is fluctuating. In other words, nowadays, it seems to be rather calm compared to what our ancients experienced. That also ties into the amount of water we have on Earth, or Earth's surface. I found old pictures, maybe 1200, 1100, I don't know, 1,000 years ago approximately. In Central Europe, there have been big ships sailing through the basically mountains. Nowadays, there is no way a big ship would fit on any of those rivers. But back in the days, they had big ports and all this kind of stuff. Nowadays, no way. There are still some big rivers, but I'm not talking about the big rivers in Europe. I'm talking about like small streams. They are nowadays small streams. Back in the days, they were rivers. So, since many things, not all, but many things, they come in cycles, we might to expect the water coming back one day, which might come to as a surprise for many people. About the ley lines, the induced currents, about the Outokumpu copper mountain Kumpu is just a hill, but let's say mountain, because there's a copper mountain mentioned in the Kalevala that got the name because of the strange lights above the hill and the strange odor that came from the hill, which might be the smell of sulfur because it got heated up by telluric currents. So that's the same region here. And Andrew Hall made the video and he showed some maps about the ley lines. And the viewer took contact to me and sent me this other video that also talked about the ley lines. And I thought that, yeah, that's very interesting, that how this ley line thing is popping up all the time. And I went outside with my cat, and nowadays I have to keep it on a leash, which is very odd. But anyway, and there's a little park nearby. And usually we are hanging there around at the park because there aren't cars and stuff. And it's a hill. And on top of the hill there's this church that has the shape of a pyramid. It's a triangle. You can build a church in many, many ways. I have seen many churches, and I bet many of you have also seen many churches. So you can build a church in many, many ways. But this one happens to be in the shape of a pyramid, which is by itself already very interesting. Because that's one of the maps showed in the video. Megalithic chemistry. And if we zoom in a little bit, here we have the pyramids of Giza. I don't know what is number 7, but I'm somewhere here. Which is very interesting. So now let's just have a quick listen to that. And I will interrupt this one map because there's another map.
Dowsers will point out that megaliths, almost without exception, are built on these telluric avenues. Rory Duff is a researcher of note in this field. His work demonstrates that the megalithic sites are built on grids that coincide with ley lines. In my own research, I've shown...
So now that's the other map. That's the 31st degree or whatever, I don't know, ley line. And I'm somewhere here, but very close on this one. So that was another thing I thought that, yeah, that's very interesting. That, yeah, there seems to be something like this going on. I measured. It's about 65 kilometers off. So we are not on this specific line with the Gizeh pyramids. Yeah, but nonetheless, I went outside with the cat and thought about the ley lines, the pyramids. I will put a link below to Andrew Hall's video. I really recommend you to watch it. And the thing is, there is not only one pyramid-shaped church on this hill. Basically, just a stone throw away, there's another one. Okay? So we have 2 pyramid-shaped churches on one hill that is very close to ley lines, and there are many, many other things here. So it's just interesting, at least. So I have been outside with a cat and thinking about making this video. Yeah, and it took me quite a while. Now I make it because the volcanic activity in Iceland triggered that. Or triggered me to make a video, so I take this also into this one. But anyway, I was outside and then I realized that yes, the Egyptians, or for the Egyptians, cats were very important. And I'm there outside thinking about ley lines, pyramids, at the base of those pyramids. Here, yes, Finnish pyramids, almost on ley lines. But there are, if you watch my Finnish copper playlist or read the other papers, you will figure out that there are in a special place. And I watched the sky, and somehow to me it seemed that there could be auroras. I took the camera because it has better eyes than I do. But there didn't seem to be much or anything. Just evening sky. 50 minutes later, I went out again and I was surprised to be somehow correct because I felt that there is something. Despite there hasn't been any geomagnetic storm or whatsoever. It was a surprise for them as well. So I started to chase the auroras. And obviously that's in a city, so there is a light pollution, but they were still very well visible. If you just look up, you know. Most people don't because they are watching their phones or whatsoever. So now we are just watching a few pictures. And yeah, of course, with bare eyes you couldn't see like these faint greenish things here. Sometimes they were like, you know, if you have seen auroras, they are fluctuating in intensity as well. So now there's auroras and the pyramid. One of the two pyramids. And of course, it also depends in which direction you watch. Because on the other side, they've turned in 90 degrees to the right. The auroras were much brighter than over the pyramid. Yeah, a little bit shaky. That's just all made with the phone. I didn't have any other stuff with me in order to take pictures. Yeah, they are neat. It's just something very amazing to see. And obviously, like I said, they fluctuate in intensity as well. Now they are much brighter. And if I do like this, we have a small time lapse made of two pictures. Yeah, I think that's just amazing. And many people never have seen auroras by themselves, but they still like to watch them, so that's why I like to show them. Yeah, now I have a selfie with the auroras and the pyramid. That's amazing. Yeah, and they were brightening up the sky every now and then, quite a bit. Yeah, that's a vertical shot in order to get more of the sky. Like, I somewhat tried that the upper part here would be straight above my head in a way. And sometimes it just helps to have some trees in the picture, just in order to give the camera something to focus on. Otherwise, it doesn't, like, how should the camera know how to focus on the auroras? Like, it doesn't really understand what it is. Like, how to focus on a cloud. Yeah, that's straight up. There has been this very intriguing channel for a while. Yeah, they were quite intense every now and then. And I also find these color changes intriguing on the outer side. And sometimes I thought they, in a way, look white. And I didn't really have time to make some research about white auroras, but there's something about them. And I also got this classic one where we have this kind of an arc. And very nicely visible how the auroras are vertical structures. And then I took another selfie with the other church. That is a pyramid. With auroras in the background. They're rather faint because in a way they seemed to avoid this place. There wasn't really aurora straight above the place where I have been like a few minutes later, which is about 100 meters or something. But I had to climb down from a water tower and stuff like that. So it's on a hill. So it's not a straight line where you can just go over. But now I have two selfies with a pyramid and auroras. Made at the same place, basically. And they fired up the auroras. That's a very interesting picture because this looks really like a cloud. I don't really know what's going on. This has been there rather briefly, just for a small amount of time. But that was very bright. And we got more colors into the spectrum here. And also here we have these clouds. Maybe the clouds are just illuminated by the auroras, or I don't know. And here we have rather intense colors on the left. And these green clouds. I find them really intriguing. I think I could call this one of the strangest aurora pictures I've ever taken. I haven't seen them too many times, let's say like this. But that's a very interesting picture, at least to me. And the show went on. And I think that's also interesting because if they talk about the colors of the auroras, they always say it's about the height and where it penetrates and what gas gets illuminated and stuff like that. But how can they be side by side if if it's supposed to be about the height to where the auroras penetrate that makes up the color? And here they are side by side. Maybe I didn't understood the explanation, but for me, that's an interesting picture. with this very distinct boundary in between. Then I think I will conclude this video with the alignment of the auroras with the second pyramid, where I made this very nice selfie where you can almost see my forehead entirely. But I want to point out something. Not only is the whole structure a triangle, obviously, but we also have that's something which I think is very interesting, because that's about sacred geometry and stuff like that. There is a snowflake and a hexagon. Okay? Let's just, if you have seen any videos about what I think what water is, that it is not a liquid, it is a crystal. Let me show you for those who haven't heard this ever. Let's try it like this. Let's take red for water when it's liquid. Other words, on the plus side, according to Gerard Pollack, it creates a hexagonal structure, the easy water. Easy water. So, when water is frozen, yeah, I really missed. But anyway, you know the snowflakes? They all are a hexagon. So that's the minus. And that's the plus. So in other words, water has always a hexagonal structure, which is a crystalline in nature, which makes it a crystal. That's why it's not a liquid. Despite its liquid, all water in you is in the easy state. So it has a hexagonal shape. And these patterns, like if you would look at this pattern, that's a church, that's some Christian church, I don't know exactly what, but anyway, you know it's about Jesus. But if you look at this hexagonal shape here, you don't find any 90-degree angle. Why is that important? Because you won't get across. There's no 90-degree angle in the whole picture, or in this pattern here, which I find very interesting. So there's a hill here that has two churches on top that are both in triangle or pyramid shape, and they are very close to the ley lines. And what's going on? This can't all be just a coincidence. You know? But anyway, greetings from here. Thanks. Bye.